Hi, Internet. How's it going? Good to see you again. We're back with another episode of. We don't have a name for this yet. We're talking to game audio devs about their process. Today we have Darren from Supergiant. Talking about Hades today. Thanks for coming, Darren. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Especially considering last night you guys got best action game, best indie game nominated for Game of the Year. Were you guys expecting? I mean, okay, so like by the time you got the reception, I imagine you were expecting something, maybe.
I mean, I just feel like if you expect those things, that's not a good idea.
Well,
Because it's
yeah,
it doesn't, the we were certainly blown away by getting 8 nominations. I mean, that was unbelievable, and being one of the few sort of independent games in categories with all these huge titles was
right.
really amazing and crazy for us. So we were thrilled to win a couple awards, and that yeah, it was really a delight and an honor to win a couple awards, and there were some amazing games this year. So it wasn't, we didn't have any any expectations
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah, I guess by expectation, I don't mean like you were anticipating winning an award, but more like like based on reception alone, you like people had to sit up and notice at least.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it was cool. Just being nominated certainly, like, brings more attention to the game and stuff.
Right.
And just sort of being nominated with games that have probably sold quite a few more copies than our game has. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
that's cool. That in and of itself is pretty cool.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we talked a little while back when we did our interview about Transistor, which is still one of my favorite games. Not that I don't love Hades. I'm just saying Transistor is like that was what got
Thank you.
me into Supergiant,
Thank you very much.
personally. But then we talked because Hades was in early access back then. So
Yep.
how much of like the I don't know of like the polish do you attribute to Hades have been in early access for like a year was it?
It was in early access for almost 2 years, actually, because
Okay.
we spent a year on Epic. We came out actually in December of 2018, so almost exactly a little over 2 years ago,
Right.
December 5th. And then we went to Steam after that and spent about 9 months there in early access.
Right.
So yeah, it was quite a while in early access, and I think that really helped. It helped the polish for sure. I think it really allowed us to iterate on stuff a lot, and anything that was bugging us still at the end, we could kind of go back and upgrade and replace, and we had a little bit of time at the end. Certain disciplines more than others I had some time at the end to go back and sort of make sure that I was happy with the presentation of all the audio, and that there was nothing that was bugging me anymore, and the sounds were all sort of that I was happy with all the sounds. And
Right.
at the same time, I think early access really, more than the polish, it allowed us to add a lot of stuff. Like, the game became huge because of early access, I think. Like, I don't think we would have had so much stuff,
Right.
such a high volume of stuff. And I think probably I can't speak to it specifically because this wasn't my area, but I think from a design standpoint, I would imagine that the early access, really was responsible for a lot of that type of polish,
Right.
the sort of design polish.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and so we've talked before about how like you guys are a pretty small team over at Supergiant, especially
Yeah.
considering, you're up against the AAA studios with
Yeah.
unlimited budgets and, unlimited
Yeah.
time, or I guess not if you're making Call of Duty games. But I keep dunking on Call of Duty in these streams. I need people to know I don't hate Call of Duty. It's just it's the industry bar for games that come out every year.
They
Anyway,
come out frequently. There's a lot of Call of Duty games. That is true.
but like you guys are a much smaller team considering, and so you have to like generally there's a bigger audio team, but at Supergiant it's mostly like you're the audio director is your title.
Technically, but I don't direct anyone other than myself.
Right,
So
right,
I mean, I direct the actors when we have voice actors.
right. VO.
Yeah, but normally an audio director on a larger team would like hire a composer and oversee the implementation of that stuff,
Right.
and hire oversee the sound design stuff and whatever. I do those things.
You do the
I don't
directing of
oversee
your
them.
own
I do them.
audio.
Yeah, and I direct. Yeah, I I make the music. I make the sound effects, and in this case, I voiced a couple of characters, um, and then directed the other actors. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was watching that when I was doing some of the research, the IGN video where it's like the devs react to speedruns,
Mm.
and I'm blanking on their names now. The two who founded Supergiant.
Yeah, Amir and Gavin.
Yeah, Amir and Devin. Yeah. So they
Gavin, yeah. Or there's Greg also.
yeah, I think it was
he might
Amir
have been
and
on there
Devin.
too. Yeah.
They were
Gavin.
like watching speedrunners,
Yeah.
break the game as it were.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they mentioned that in the like a lot of the VO stuff, you guys have a couple people who have been recurring through all the Supergiant games as the like in Bastion they were the narrator.
Yep. Logan. That's Logan. Yep.
It's Logan, right? And
Yep.
then in Transistor they were the sword, was it?
Yep.
Yeah. And then they were the narrator or the announcer in Pyre.
Yeah. The in Pyre they were the announcer, and then also voiced a couple other characters as well.
Right. So
And
is that just like a ease of I don't know, ease of like knowing the person, or is it just you like their voice? It's useful for all these different things.
I mean, Logan is a fantastic actor who's our friend. So on Bastion, a lot of those decisions were made because we had access. Like, here are the resources we have access to. Let's use all of these. Logan was my roommate at the time. I knew he was a great actor. We were looking to try some narration. Let's give it a go.
Right.
Come over to my room and record some stuff. Take the 5-foot walk. So but since then we just love working with Logan. He's fantastic. We have a rapport. He's capable of a lot of different things. His range is amazing and his voice is incredible. So we just love working with him.
Nice. Yeah, the change a setting here real quick. So I was talking to a couple of my coworkers actually have been playing Hades more than probably anything else this year.
Cool. Awesome.
It's funny because I feel like the previous Supergiant games, they were more of a not that Hades isn't involved, but you can definitely like sit down and play a round of Hades and then be done for a couple, a little while.
Yeah.
And so in your composition, do you like, are you aware of that in the composition in any way? Like, of course you're aware design wise, but when you're writing the music, do you have it like not be as immersive or not as long, or is it done purposefully in that way?
I think part of it is I tried to make sure that each run felt scored as best as I could through the course of the run,
mm-hmm.
and that the big moments and the big changes in the run were scored, and that the pieces played back in such a way where we could squeeze some extra juice out of all the pieces before they would grow tiresome and you get sick of them, right?
Right.
So some of the ways we do that is, at the beginning we have a particular piece that plays every time, but we have sort of different stem arrangements that can play sort of semi-randomly, and then stems that can turn on and off. The percussion turns off when you defeat all the enemies in a room, for example.
Right.
And different sections of the piece that can be advanced through in FMOD, and all that stuff is done in FMOD. And so, and then when you clear, say, the third room, it'll call the ending of that piece. It'll end, and then the next piece will begin, and then it'll sort of advance through the sections as you go chamber to chamber, increasing in intensity, and then when you hit the mini boss or the boss, it'll kick into the hard rock section, and feel, hopefully get your blood pumping for the boss.
Right.
And then when you either die, it'll stop and play a stinger, or if you win, it'll, transition to the ending tag and end the piece, and then it'll move on to the next appropriate piece. And then of course there are some exceptions with the vocal pieces and special case rooms and stuff, Charon's shop and things like that.
Right.
But we wanted it to feel, we wanted there to be a pretty decent variety of stuff that you could hear in the course of a run. And for each section, Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, we have a bucket of pieces, like a sort of playlist that it'll go through. Right. There's like 4, 3, and 3. And each of those pieces is very long and has a bunch of sections and 3 stems that can be played in a lot of different combinations. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the way we try to accomplish that.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, watching that same speedrun video, it's funny because they were talking about your audio design in that the way that the dude was playing the game, he was skipping over a bunch of your cues, so it would jump between audio cues, and it would just like switch pieces all of a sudden, as opposed to like probably the way it was intended to be played.
Yeah.
But hey, isn't that the point?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah.
So with the last 3 games, they've all been, I mean, they seem like they're based in other mythology in a way, or I guess like Pyre was sort of, Transistor was, kind of like cyberpunk-ish, not to use the buzzword, but did you like, and since you guys are such a small team, did you have a lot of say in like where the direction of Hades went, being like, no, we want to do Greek mythology, or Roman? Greek,
yeah. Well, each game we make is a response, I think, to the previous one we made in a lot of ways. And part of the desire on Hades, I think, was just to make a game that we could explain easily and was clear, and we didn't have to sort of write an essay to explain what the game was. Like Pyre, I love Pyre, but it's certainly a more esoteric experience, I think. Sure. But for Hades, we wanted something clear that we could sort of just succinctly explain. And another thing that was interesting to us, Greg Kasavin, our creative director, has always been interested in Greek mythology since he was a kid, and a lot of us on team are interested in it as well. And we thought it might be fun to take a stab at, at not creating a world from scratch, which we had done on the previous 3 games. We were interested in maybe trying to adapt some existing material as sort of a challenge. It felt like more of a risk, oddly enough, doing that than it did to make a thing from scratch, because that's what we had done before. It
makes sense though, because it's like like Frank Herbert's son is now writing the Dune books, and it's like you have to pay homage to this thing that people love so much, and you have to not mess it up.
Yeah. I mean, I guess one difference, is that there's a lot more leeway in Greek mythology, because there's no sort of there's a lot of different versions of Greek myth that are all canon,
Right. So there's no one definitive version.
Yeah, there's no one thing. So I think that makes it a bit, it gives you a bit more license where you can kind of interpret some of that stuff. But credit to Greg, he did a really amazing job on bringing all these characters to life and making them sort of relatable and understandable. So
and they still kind of fit within like the Supergiant style in a way, because all the other 3 games were still like, yes, they were all their own world, but they all had their own feel, but they all feel like you guys in a way. Like it feels like it's got the and say what you will about the art design and stuff, but even so, like the character direction, I guess, like the the voice acting, everything still feels organic to your guys' like style, I guess, which is great.
Cool. I mean, I think we have a sort of particular approach and sensibility that we just kind of can't help but bring to each project to some degree.
Hey, I mean, apparently the people love it, so don't don't ever change.
Yeah.
No pressure. But so did you, when you're like, you said you were you said you were like building in this already pre-existing world. Did that affect your composition at all? Like, because when we talked about Transistor, it was more electronic, obviously based in that world. Bastion was, I think someone described it as Western. You described it as
acoustic frontier trip hop.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you adapt to more mythological style?
Yeah, I used kind of the same process I've used on each project, where at the beginning I ask myself a lot of questions to sort of get at what I want the palette to be for the game.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of instruments would exist in the setting of this game? What kind of music will people listen to? What kind of music will people write? What style of music? What are the sounds that are going to feel of this place without sort of just based on your sort of my first instinct. And so that, in the case of this game, that was a lot of the sort of Mediterranean instruments that I used on the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
I used balama, which is a Turkish instrument, lavta, which is also a Turkish instrument, and bouzouki, which is a Greek instrument.
Right.
Not ancient. None of them are ancient, but they're like old enough to sound,
they can pass.
They can sort of evoke that, you know.
Yeah.
And my goal was to just sort of try and evoke a general sort of pan-Mediterranean region, because if the further back you go, the more all the cultures blended in that area. So
right.
So it's sort of like, I allowed myself to
a little bit of leeway.
A little bit of leeway there, yeah. Because if you go actually to ancient Greece, then you got to use like aulos and like all these weird instruments that are like don't have a lot of notes on them and are hard to play and are So I music changed quite a bit since the ancient Greek times. But
yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, this is gonna for me represent the sort of the specific sound of the place,
sure,
and the region. And I had sort of hand percussion. A bunch of hand percussion was the sort of
right
rhythm section for that part. And then I wanted to bring in, because once we knew that the game was going to take place in the underworld, I was like, okay, well, it needs some metal. It's going to be in hell. It's got to have some metal. So I had to bring in some hard rock stuff. It just seemed like I couldn't not do that.
Well, and yeah, then, I mean, if you've played either of the Doom games, you kind of gotta the new Doom games, you kind of gotta get into it a little bit.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's just like the metal. It comes from hell, so you gotta. It comes from hell.
Exactly. Oh man.
And then the tone of the game is kind of light in spite of the setting and in spite of what's happening. It's actually pretty cheeky.
Right.
And so I wanted to express that musically as well. I wanted to have the tone of the music reflect that. So I have this sort of theremin-like sound throughout most of the pieces. That sort of like I call it Halloween store music, or like Halloween music.
Yeah. Yep. I know exactly what you mean, actually.
so anyway, I thought that little quirk would add, and it would give me something to express melodies and stuff without, like, that wouldn't be too invasive while you're playing stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, that's sort of those are the sort of ingredients for me, and I ended up with Mediterranean prog rock Halloween music was my thing I ended up with for this game.
Rock Halloween. You got one more word in there this time. You got to cut it down.
Yeah. The prog rock's hyphenated.
Oh right, no, okay, you're right. Yeah. You're right. I love the Tenacious D reference. I've been meaning to watch that movie again.
Oh yeah,
love those dudes.
They're so good. I love them.
So those Mediterranean instruments, did you have to learn how to play them or find them, or did you just use contact libraries?
No, I as soon as I knew we were doing something set in ancient Greece, I was like, okay, I was just Googling instruments, like, so I knew about a bouzouki. I was like, okay, I'll get a bouzouki. I know what that is. And I'd spent some time in Turkey, like 10, 15 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
15 years ago. And,
Oh, right.
and I learned about the balama when I was there, and I bought one when I was there, but I had to like get rid of it before I could come back. I just couldn't bring it. Like I
Right.
didn't have the way to get it back. So I ordered one, and then I discovered through some internet research this instrument called a lavta, which is sort of like a fretted Turkish lute almost. It's 7 strings, 4 courses, and it goes 1, 2, 2, 2.
Okay.
So it's got like a bass string and then like 3 courses of 2 strings each.
Mm-hmm.
And that instrument and the balama both have some microtonal frets too. But aside from that, it was actually fairly easy to learn them, mechanically speaking. The tunings are weird.
Right.
But it works like a guitar, and I know how to play the guitar. So they all work like guitars, so I can I can play them more or less.
So it's probably not like traditional balama music then.
No, I mean, I don't know.
Right, yeah. Hard to tell.
I did some research. I didn't do. I've listened. I'm familiar with some of that kind of music, but I didn't bother too much with how the balama is traditionally supposed to be played. I just sort of like, what can I do with this thing?
Right.
Was my approach to all that.
Sure. I mean, you're adapting it to a video game, which is not what I imagine any balama, like traditional balama player was anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is probably not.
Probably not. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
So the bouzouki is the flute type.
Bouzouki. It's Bouzouki. It's a giant Greek mandolin, essentially. It's like this big, and it's got 8 strings, and it's like a kind of in between a 12-string guitar and a mandolin a little bit. It's got 4 courses of doubled strings.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom 2 are octaves and the top 2 are doubled.
Right.
Kind of like the top 4 strings of a 12-string guitar, more or less. But with a different tuning. It's tuned I think it's C. It's like this one is C. So if you played a D chord shape, it would be a C.
Oh, okay.
I think. Oh gosh, I don't know.
Something like that.
I don't remember.
It's cool. Game's out already. It doesn't matter.
I didn't really bother learning chord shapes since. I mean, like I sort of did. I just I did a little bit, but it's basically tuned relatively like the top 4 strings of a guitar, so I could play whatever
you could
chord
figure
shapes.
it out. Yeah. Kind of like the ukulele.
Yeah, it's sort of like the ukulele. Yeah, except for with the octave,
but enormous
difference. Yeah, and it's giant. And then the balama and the lavta are tuned similarly to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I learned sort of a couple of basic chord shapes on there, I was able to sort of feel my way around. And even before that, it didn't really matter because I'm just seeing what sounds cool here. What can I do?
Did you ever get real weird with them, like pass them through guitar pedals or like affect them in weird ways that you hadn't really thought of before playing with them?
Not much actually. For these instruments on this game, I didn't do that because I wanted them to. I mean, I put some delay on some stuff sometimes, like tape delay and with some flutter and stuff, but not really on this project because I wanted them to represent the traditional sort of acoustic, folk sound. So I didn't want to mess with them sonically too much. I've done that on other projects, like on Bastion. I ran a ukulele through a bit crusher and whatever. I've done all sorts of weird stuff, but not real
weird with it.
Not on this particular project.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, I imagine the harder rock, the metal coming from hell, is probably involved a fair amount more, overdrive and distortion and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah, and for that I was using proper rock instrument, electric guitar and bass and drums, and
Your not your son's drums in the background.
Not
there.
My son's drum set, but my electronic drum set over there is what I use, and the sounds are all samples.
Do you ever mess around with that thing just to see what you can get out of it? The little one.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds pretty good actually. Yeah, okay. I mean, like this band Wolfpack. Are you familiar with Wolfpack?
I am. I'm trying to remember the song name. Are they the?
They do Back Pocket, and they have a song called Beastly, which
Yeah.
they were like in music school when they recorded it, and like they were using a child's drum set. Like it's like a tiny, and it sounds amazing because they just
Right.
treat it awesome and mic it right and compress it, and it sounds great.
The same thing. Yeah.
So it's like, there's a tiny little snare drum, but we fiddle with it, and it sounds pretty good now, actually. Don't tell him, but for Christmas he's getting a new snare drum and hi hat. So.
Ooh. Okay. I won't ruin the surprise.
Don't tell him. If he walks in here, don't be like, don't.
Hey, by the way. Yeah, I mean the Questlove drum kit. I was looking at those, and it's about the same size.
It's small. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear those sound pretty good. I haven't tried one actually.
I've watched the video because I was thinking about getting one because I live in San Francisco and my apartment is barely smaller than my body, or barely larger than my body.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I could fit that in here, like maybe it could. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but we'll see.
For apartment living, I think there's like the sad reality is you got to go electronic. Like your neighbors will hate you so much if you have a drum set that isn't electronic.
You are not wrong about that. I have the Octopad right over here, so it's like okay, maybe this is just what I live with for now.
Yeah. No, the electronic drum set's been a game changer for me. Like I got one. I think I got it maybe 4 years ago, and it's just so much fun to have around.
Yeah, it's nice for playing things that aren't drums. With drums.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I find personally the whole like velocity sensitivity is not necessarily what I want, but that's because I came from playing traditional drums originally, and I'm just like I want to hit stuff the way I want to hit stuff.
Yeah.
So let's see. Back to So in that same interview, or I guess it wasn't an interview, just the video of your boys watching speedrunners wreck your game. They were saying that you were actually the best speedrunner on staff.
I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a speedrunner, but I have gotten one time sub 13 minutes, which is like pretty good for not a. I think I lost your mic. I lost your mic again. It's possible you bumped your thing.
Thanks.
There we go.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's running into an adapter, so it like.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
It makes it a little chunky. So if I bump it at all, anyway.
Well, so yeah. I mean, I'm not. So yeah, I had a sub 13-minute time, pretty good. I can get under 14 like semi-regular, pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And but I'm not. I don't know the secrets of. I haven't tried to like min max my speed runs yet. I'm just like, well, let me just try this, and I'll try and go real fast. It's like I don't have.
Let me just cheese the game all time.
I haven't done any like proper research on how to do a good speed run.
It's funny because watching it seems like it's not so much like because older games, Mario 64, you got your backwards long jump, which just breaks the game entirely. But then with this, it just seemed like you just have to be good at it. That's the only way to speedrun.
The thing that's interesting about speedrunning Hades is that it's like it's a combination of timing. You have to have your timing be good. You have to sort of, but there's a lot of meta skill you have to develop,
right?
And strategy,
right? Because you can get different drops from different areas and stuff, and Okay, I never get this right. Is it roguelike or roguelite?
Well, so. Technically, I think the game is a roguelite because you retain progress between runs, and a roguelike, I think, like purists would say that you do not gain any progress from a roguelike.
Permadeath, okay.
And and there's all sorts of category, things you could apply to it that we don't do, but yeah, I would say that it's a roguelite technically, but I think. Because of the procedurally generated levels and there's sort of randomization in each run, as you go, you're making a lot of choices and making the sort of fastest choice or the choice that's going to be the best for your build.
Right.
Are things that are really going to help you go faster. I mean, even which room you choose to go into. Right. Going through a chaos portal is going to be faster than fighting through a room of enemies or whatever.
Right. And you gotta hug your dad at the end. So it's like, when I was watching that, they're like, I think they're like they were saying like, we think Darren figured this out. When you're fighting your dad, and he does this whatever like huge attack,
laser move,
you just hug your dad.
Like you're dead. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. I don't know that I knew about that one, but I sometimes I like to have builds where there's a lot of damage over time happening with the sort of crystals shooting lasers and the poison and all sorts of stuff. And so you can just kind of set all that stuff up right before he does that move, and he'll just be eating a bunch of damage while he's doing it.
Right. So
It's a lot of fun stuff.
you guys, was most of the QA internal?
We earlier on in the project, I believe we worked with some external QA, and then we have people who work with us, our contractors who are part of our more or less part of our team, external part of our team, who do a bunch of QA for us and doing a really incredible job. And I think we have 3 people, and then we have, of course, we had a closed test server where we would sort of release updates kind of early, a couple weeks early or a week early, and get a bunch of notes and update stuff before we release it to the greater public. And then, of course, early access is they're sort of doing some QA too a little bit,
Right, and you can piece it out a little bit more than you would just like releasing it as a whole.
Yep.
So with that, like the internal QA stuff, when you were playing the game, did you find a lot of stuff audio wise where you're like, oh, like this? Because one of the things that I talked about last week with the Paradise Killer guys is that their game is really text based. So there's a lot of those moments where it's like, okay, you're gonna be hearing the blip of, like, you're gonna hear the typing noise a lot, or you're gonna hear like the dialogue blips a lot.
Yeah.
And so you have to sound design those in a way that they don't get grating, they don't become annoying. Did you, like, when you were playing through the game yourself, did you find things where you're like, oh, I need to change the sword sound? Like, I hear the sword sound every however often, and I need to make it different so I don't die.
I feel like that stuff I catch pretty early. The stuff where it's like, oh, well, the sound is too repetitive, it becomes annoying, it's too piercing, it's too loud in the mix, it's whatever.
Right.
That stuff I feel like is fairly straightforward to catch for me early on, and while I'm implementing it is usually the step at which I will catch and fix that level of thing. Because as I'm implementing it, I'm testing it in the game, and in my initial test before I even check it in, I'll tweak a lot of that stuff. The thing that I discovered playing through the game a bunch, is that I discovered like a lot of kind of little bugs that are hard to perceive, unless you're me or Greg. They're like, because I recorded all the voiceover lines, I'm familiar with what's supposed to play kind of when, and like if a conversation, somebody had the wrong response to this conversation, like not just everybody will notice that because I know what's supposed to play there, and
right.
So when we were filing the game and I was playing the Switch build, I played probably 100 hours in 2 weeks or something, and found a lot of that kind of stuff where it's like stuff you can only find if you do like 5 runs in a row and then remember something from your 2 runs ago that happened, right? It's like when you talk to Sisyphus, on this run, and then the next run he said the same thing for 2 runs in a row, and that should never happen. You know what I mean? Like, and nobody's gonna, it's the kind of bug that is going to be hard to catch, and for the kind of work the QA is doing, they're not usually like doing just runs and runs and runs of the game. They're usually like trying to find specific see if specific bugs have been fixed and find specific things. So it's sort of a different thing.
Trying to actively break it as opposed to just saying like
just playing normally and seeing what happens. Yeah. So I was sort of trying to play as normally as I could for 2 weeks straight, basically, and found some stuff that we fixed and everything. And of course, I found some audio stuff that I wanted to polish, and
100 hours in 10 days.
Yeah.
Did you ever get sick of your own game? Is that a thing?
It is a thing. It wasn't on this game though. Just because the nature of this game is so there's
malleable.
It feels kind of fresh every time you play it, more or less, for me at least. And so it really did. I did not get sick of it, actually. I was certainly like tired, but I wasn't tired of the game. yeah, I mean, it's fun to play, and the sense of progression and the variety from run to run, and just the sort of small goals that the game presents to you that you can pursue or not.
Right.
It's just really exciting, and I was trying to kind of 100% everything basically, and see if I could. I mean, I'm probably in this save file, I'm like 135 runs in or something on that save file that I started just before, and having completed it most of those times, like I beat it probably on run. I started beating it on probably like run 5 or something, and then just kept beating it mostly unless I was trying really hard, high heat or something.
Right.
And so I've unlocked a lot of stuff, but I still haven't unlocked everything because there's certain enemies like I've never died to, for example, and Hypnos has something to say if you die to that enemy, and there's there's stuff that I'm still unlocking, like I just had a random Thanatos conversation and a random Eurydice conversation that I hadn't gotten before because, anyway, it's just really, it's crazy. Even as somebody who worked on this game, there's just a lot of stuff to discover in it.
Yeah, it's I guess it's part of the nature of it being a roguelite. I think I got it right that time. I've never played Rogue either, so I can't really say.
Yeah, the original. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't played it either. I mean, that game was turn-based and it was a whole thing.
It
But
was like a DOS game, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like an ASCII. I don't know.
ASCII.
It's,
Like, nah, I'm good.
yeah.
It's a little hard to interface with now. But so I guess part of the nature of it being a roguelite, like you guys you're not a AAA studio by definition, but
Correct.
to most people's eyes, you put out AAA quality games. Do you feel that same kind of pressure? Like, is there crunch like there is, like we hear about in all the other large studios?
I mean, no, we try to actively discourage that. I think at the end of a project, there's always a little bit more work to do, and stuff can, get hairy for a little bit. And
Right.
some members of the team will just want to put in more hours, but we do try to discourage it. I mean, we have some policies in place, like we have an email cutoff at 5 p.m. on Friday, and you're not allowed to do anything that generates an email after 5 p.m. on Friday. And it's just like, stop working, please. And we have a sort of mandatory take a minimum of 20 days off a year, stuff like that. Like, just to try to encourage people to because if we didn't have what we discovered on previous projects is that when we did not have those policies, people just wouldn't stop working. They just kept working. So we wanted to try to add some more sustainability to the process. Each go round, we get a little bit better at it, and it's still a work in progress, but I think we're on our way.
That's really awesome. That's like, I wish more places did that. Not complaining. I'm just saying. Yep. But with all that, those safe nets, I guess, or whatever you call them, put in, you still put out these games that people, every single one people have loved. Like, there hasn't been a flop from Supergiant. So it's really interesting that, people kind of romanticize the crunch. And I guess part of it too is, like you were saying, the people just wouldn't stop working if you let them.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I think part of it is the whole mindset of people who work in the games industry, where it's like, oh, I can get this. Like, if I just do this, I can get this ironed out. It's like, dude, it's fine. It'll be here on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, I think because we're working on games because we love them, so the desire is you want to do everything that you possibly can. You want to pour yourself in it because people, everybody working on these projects loves them, and we care a lot deeply about them, and especially I think because we're a small team, the impact of the work that each individual does is really palpable. You can really feel it in the game. Right. So when you do an extra couple of hours of work, that might make a difference sometimes, like an actual big difference sometimes, depending on the work you're doing. And so it's tempting sometimes to push a little bit extra, but we've done this long enough now. The people who've been here since the beginning of since Bastion and stuff, I mean, we've done this long enough now to know that it's really important not to burn yourself out and to try to pace yourself as much as you can, because inevitably there are times when it gets a little more intense and you have to work a long day here and there, but it's not we try to avoid getting into a sustained state of everybody's working all the time. It's not healthy, and one of our goals as a studio, I think, is just to continue doing this indefinitely. Because it's fun and it's our favorite thing to do.
Yeah, and you guys are good at it, so why not? Is that a Schoolhouse Rock shirt?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
There we go. Knowledge is power.
Man,
it's true.
That was that and the what was the other one? The Electric Company. That was my shit growing up.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I am gonna boot up the game here. I haven't actually played on PC before. I've only played on my Switch.
Okay.
Do you recommend controller or keyboard? I've never tried with keyboard.
I'm a controller guy.
Okay.
And if you've played on Switch, controller's probably going to be the easiest transition.
I've been stuck in Cyberpunk for the last 48 hours, so I'm a little more keyboard centric right now. But I can. I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, I'm not as good at Hades with a mouse and keyboard, though. Some people on our team are mouse and keyboard people, and some people are controller people.
There we go. Okay, so do you? Just this real quick. Cool. When you were composing for this, how much of the artwork was done by the time you actually started writing the full pieces? Whoa, that's loud.
Basically, well, the way we work is, we're working on these projects right at the beginning, all at the same time, starting at the beginning all together. So we are. Are you turning on? I have to turn on hell mode. Yeah.
I was thinking about it. Thinking about it, but I don't know if I'm ready.
It's tough. It's a good time though. Yeah. So we all start at the same time. So a couple of pieces, there was very little art at the time I started working on them. The first handful of pieces where I was sort of experimenting and figuring out what the sound of the game was going to be, and there, as it goes, the early pieces don't have a lot of art when I'm making them, and as we go, there's all the art or almost all the art when I'm making the later pieces. So right. It's kind of the full range.
It's funny because just in this intro screen, I didn't really think about this before when I was playing on my Switch, but you can kind of is it weird to say that I can tell that it's you writing this because it's still got that trip hop ish, the percussion is still there.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean that's cool. I accept.
Well, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But yeah. So since you guys kind of start together and finish together with all this, is there ever really a vertical slice stage, or is it just you guys just start mushing ideas against the wall, throw spaghetti at the wall until something sticks?
We tend to do so we like to do a vertical slice thing where we all sort of polish up a small section of the game a lot to see kind of the full sort of what it might look like, once it's all put together.
Right.
And we did that on this project. I think, it was pretty fast. I mean, we had a thing that looked more or less like this first part of the game up through the Meg fight.
Mm-hmm.
We had some form of that pretty early. I want to say we started working on the game in September. Wait a minute, September 2017, maybe.
Wow.
And then we had that thing maybe March or April. It was pretty fast. It felt like it came together pretty quickly. So yeah, it was that was our sort of vertical slice, I would say. And we've done that, I think, for every project where we really polish up a small portion of the game to see kind of what it's going to feel like, what everything, all the systems, sort of as many systems as we can fit into this portion, and see what that's like. And I think this was a little different because we were gunning to have a game ready for early access, and we knew that.
Okay.
So it wasn't quite the same. Like, we didn't aim to have every possible feature in right at the start. We just wanted it to have, like, these are the bones. This is what we want to, the bones of what we want to present in early access. And
Sure.
we're going to, knowing we were going to add systems and add depth and add all sorts of stuff.
That's interesting because it's like an internal vertical slice in a way, because it's still a vertical slice.
Yeah.
But it's like you're not shopping it to people in the same way that other studios would, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is it's interesting to hear, because I guess I never really thought about how a smaller studio would do something like that. When you with something like, I was playing Grow Home recently, where it's like, what was the vertical slice of this even like? Because the game is so kind of odd and esoteric. But then with something like Hades, it's still a Supergiant game. Like having played Transistor, like, this kind of still plays like Transistor in a way, because you got
isometric.
Yeah, it's isometric. You've got your moves over here with their cooldowns, and that's what's happening. So yeah, it's hard to talk and play this one. I had not practiced this enough.
Yeah.
But so, like, when you guys were planning your vertical slice, did you go with, like, you had your first piece? Did you go all the way into FMOD and, like, start setting it up in an FMOD session?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the purpose of something like that vertical slice, is to figure out how we want the music to integrate into the game and how we want to sort of progress through a piece as you progress through a run and all that stuff. I mean, it was something that we definitely that was really important to that process, and that's sort of how I figured out how the pieces were going to be implemented, was through that process of, we made a non-randomized version of the thing that we planned to later randomize, just to kind of prove the concept of how this is going to work.
Right.
You know what? It was through the mini boss. It wasn't even through Meg. It was just up through the mini boss, I think. Okay. The first mini boss, like the two skeletons that throw bombs or whatever.
Right. So, would you want to pull up one of those FMOD sessions you had?
Sure.
So we can take a look.
Happy to do that. Yeah, I got to figure out how to share my audio from Discord, but how does one do this?
Hang on one second. There we go. Okay. So, let me grab my other mouse because I am on the wrong computer. Here we go. Boop, boop, boop.
Does this work? Are you seeing this?
Yeah. Let me full screen that real quick for everyone.
All right. Let me see. Okay. Go to... here.
There we go.
So, let me know if you can hear this. Can you hear this? Is that working for you or no?
No, I'm not hearing that.
See how I can hear? How do I share audio on Discord? Oh, maybe it's in the mic?
I think it's in the little tab.
In the, like, microphone tab?
It's either
or in the sharing tab?
It might be in the
stream
share tab.
It's just I don't have any audio options in there. Source? No. Stop streaming. Troubleshooting live on the stream.
I know, right?
Troubleshooting live.
There's a thing for this. How to share computer audio on...
Does anybody know how to do it?
Yeah, come on, chat. Thanks for pulling up the FMOD session. This is a great idea. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, if I can get it to make it so you guys can hear it, that would be even better.
Audio. On my PC, I can change my microphone to stereo mix. This is the audio of my computer. Oh, I guess.
So it may lose my mic then, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I see. Input device.
Well, I guess, you could just visually describe it to us.
Yeah. I could play back some of it. Here, let me see if I can do that. So you do it on the microphone thingamagoo here?
Yeah, and then you set it to your stereo mix.
Alt. Realtek. Maybe this is it. Is it?
Yes, it's just very quiet. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. But
Oh,
anyway, I was just showing there some of the different stems and how we did the stems with the three. We had the bass stem, the guitar stem, the drum stem.
right.
And there's the three sections. There's a sort of intro looping quiet section that with like a pulsating bass part and like some synth pads. There's the sort of proper section, that's section 0 for us. Section 1, section 1 starts when the actual proper piece kicks in with the sort of folk arrangement of the piece with the more active hand percussion stuff. And then section 2 is the really intense part. And as you can see, I've gotten rid of the other two stems because I just have everything on one stem here because it all plays whenever that section happens. So I ended up refactoring the stems at the end of the project just to save on performance during those sections.
It's funny because when you people describe FMOD, it's like, yeah, it's a lot more like a DAW. But then when you look at it like that, it's like, yeah, you don't need the rest of the stems there because it's just all happening. You're just transitioning to that.
Yep. Yeah. And I did that because we were having some desync issues with the stems during like some really intense sections of the fight and stuff. Like make it on lower end machines, just trying to make it run well without any desync issues.
Isn't that considerate of you guys? CD Projekt Red, take notes. But that's a lot of transitions.
It is basically every bar line, more or less. We've got these these transitions are all sort of, and then I'll actually tweak them if like if my hit is a little, this one's not. So yeah, see the transitions in the middle of this.
Was that metal part here in 5?
Oh well, there. Okay, so we got 21/8, and then 11/8, and then 4/4, and then 21/8, and then 11/8.
21/8.
Da 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 da. That's 21/8. So it's 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 is how you count it.
Why?
I was actually taking drum lessons. Like my kid was taking drum lessons for a minute, and like he was a little young, so he stopped, and I ended up just kind of taking the rest of the lessons we'd already paid for on his behalf. And I sat down with the drum teacher, and he's like, "All right, you can play. Let's play some weird. Let's do some weird times and stuff. Your time's all right. Let's do." And like, okay. So he showed me this Finnish band, I believe, called Vartina. And they have a song, in fact, in 21/8 that he made me figure out how to play. And it was fun. It was really weird. And it took me a while to kind of start to hear it. But it was really interesting to me because that weird time signature stuff I knew I wanted to incorporate. And because it's kind of a part of two of the ingredients in the game, of the music sort of trifecta thing I was going for the game.
Right.
It's part of the folk music thing, and it's part of the prog thing, and metal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in folk music, in the example of this band Vartina, it's like Finnish folk music. You have a vocal phrase, that's however long it is, and that's the length of the measure, you know? And it's just based on this vocal phrase. And so that was really fascinating to me, and I tried to pursue that more deeply in the writing. And so, yeah, I thought, well, let me try and write a little piece in 21/8 and see how that goes. But this is what I came up with, and it transitions to 4/4 and stuff. Like the B section is all in 4/4 and stuff.
So do you, with all these transitions, since like, you know, I'm guessing that they're all there because, you know, at any point in this loop, an enemy, like a sequence could end and you have to jump to the next sequence. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the way it works is it'll be playing this sequence, and then, you know, this section will play for a number of chambers. This is the mellow section right here, right?
Right.
And then when you if you advance to, if you leave the last chamber in the sequence that represents this section, then you know, the script calls section 1, and while it's playing, you know, I'll play it at section 0 and I'll change to section 1. You can see what happens, right?
Right.
You can't hear it, but you can see that section 1, the next time it hits one of those markers, there it goes. Boink. You know what I mean? Right. Now it's at section, now it's here. And then this section will play until you get to a boss. And when you get to a boss, the very last panel of dialogue that the boss says before you fight them will call section 2. And so then you have, you know, when it hits the bar line, you've got a little transition here, and then it goes to the big transition into the, you know, the rockin' part. Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
So yeah, I mean, and that's how that works. I mean, it's fairly basic, but and some pieces have, depending on, this has like long measures. You know, I didn't put any breaks in the middle of the 21/8 note measure. You know,
right.
So the transitions may not be as precise on this piece, say, as some of the other ones, but it ends up just kind of working, and it feels kind of right, kind of no matter how it happens. Is what I sort of discovered. It's not like the timing isn't so critical, usually, because we're padding it with some event there. So yeah, and you know, there are different pieces implemented different ways. Some of them are just implemented as just a stereo stem. You know, with this is a song with vocals that has subtitle markers.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
So this is how we do our subtitles. We have like a little text file with, this says end theme 001, and we have a text file with a line that says end theme 001, and then we have whatever that lyric is. And that's also how we did the translations for all the songs and stuff too, is those individual strings got translated and replaced in the different languages and stuff.
That's all done in the middleware. I had no idea.
So just the markers are in the middleware, like when to play them is in the middleware. And that's all it is, right? It's like, well, it's like, yeah, so it's like there is a text file that is not in the middleware, that's in script, that has end theme 001, and then like some script, then it's like, here are the lyrics, and then when this marker is called, play these lyrics, you know, display these lyrics, right? If in the subtitle, if that makes sense. And so yeah, we kind of developed a subtitle system for this game because we didn't have that on our other games. And then trying to think what else. Yeah, there's that, and there's some vocal pieces. We've got
dang, that's a lot of
some stingers. Got some stingers. We got some. Yeah, these are all the music pieces in the game, and some of them are stingers. You know, God of the Dead was just a single stem until I added the extreme measures section, which added this is the rock and guitar stems over the top. And the way that piece works is it's got a bunch of sections it'll advance through. You know, it starts at we added a section. Gosh, what is this? What is this? 0. Section 0. What section is this? Intro to start. Section 8. Yes, we added that at the very end. So I had to because section 0 was already used. So I had to make a new section. So we added this at the very end, which is like a little John Carpenter piano thing when Hades is on his last panel of dialogue. So it's like you're about to fight music, right? And then it'll advance to the piece properly when you put it to section 0, the beginning of the boss fight, and then that'll happen until you beat him, or you know, you die. If you die, it'll fade out. If you beat him, it'll advance to section 1, and then that section is the transition, like in this middle looping part, when he's like down on the ground saying his dialogue.
Right. To the second
and
phase.
There's conversations, and then the second phase will hit when I put it to section 2. Then there's the rocket part, and that part, and then when you beat him, it will advance to either section 3, which is the like ending kind of slowed down part, with just the bass and the drums there during the like last bit of dialogue, and then when that dialogue ends, it'll advance to 10, which is our ending section here. Hit that ending stinger, and then, but if you're playing Extreme Measures version of the fight, this is complicated here. It will go to, yeah. So here we go. So if I'm playing it in section 2 here, which is the rockin' section, right? And then I put it back to section 1, it'll go back to the thing that plays when he's on the ground defeated, which is what happens after the end of phase 2 in the Extreme Measures version of the fight.
Right.
Then we kick on this dual stem here, you see?
Mm-hmm.
That's on now. And then we go back to section 2, and it's the same section, but now it has the rocking guitar solo over the top. See? That's how we do that. So there you go.
Man, that must have been so much fun to record.
The guitar solo I did not record. I had a couple of incredible guitar players or wizards do that stuff, and they just killed it.
The first part where it's like the, I don't know, metal.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. But
yeah.
Hang on, let me fix this.
Yeah.
That up here. But yeah, it's it sounds like, I don't know, it's so not over the top, like in like an excessive way, but over the top in like a in your face, like it really is the metal that comes from hell.
Yeah. No, I mean, I knew that we when I wrote the piece, I didn't know we were going to have an extremer, like an even more extreme version
Double
of it.
extreme version.
So basically, yeah. So like what happened was I wrote it. I knew it was going to be a 2-phase fight. I had a section, at the beginning of it that was like a kind of a more intense version of the main theme of the game, the opening game music, and then the second phase of the fight was going to be basically like to 10.
Yeah.
The intensity turned up to 10, and then it's like, okay, so we're going to add another level of intensity to this fight. What are we going to do? My initial thought was like, well, I can't go to 11. I have to like do something else. But I had this other idea, but then I thought, no, I just want there to be a guitar duel, like a real, just like crazy shredder guitar duel over the top of this.
More Tenacious D.
Yeah, and sort of a la Megadeth was sort of my my sort of reference point for that. And I reached out to some friends and like, hey, does anybody know like a absolute wizard who could do a guitar solo here?
Right.
And a friend of mine recommended a pair of incredible guitar players who like, I just sent them notes. I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking for this part. I want it to be like a 4-minute, like turned up to 11, just shred fest guitar duel, a la Megadeth,
Right.
Like Tornado of Souls, or whatever, and they're just like, all right, cool. And they just sent me back this like perfect, incredible guitar part to go over the top. I was like, okay, I guess these
Here
guys are the most talented people alive.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It's funny because, again, like when we were talking to the Paradise Killer dudes last time, it's entirely different genre of game, entirely different genre of music. They were doing like future, like 80s hangover, like Dreamcast style stuff, but he's like, yeah, so I brought this dude in, and I'm like, all right, dude, now just shred sax for like a he has this like like you said, turned up to 11
Yeah,
sax solo
yeah,
where it's just like
yeah,
totally annihilating the song. And it's
yeah,
like, dude,
yeah,
that's what? And then it's the same with that
yeah,
guitar solo where it's like, even the first version of it, the non
yeah.
drastic measures, that's what it's called?
Extreme
Extreme
measures.
measures.
Yeah,
Um, the non-extreme measures version, you're like, oh hell yeah, like it's
yeah,
time time to
yeah,
get my murder on. But then
yeah,
with the guitar duel, it's like, oh, I didn't think this could get more intense, but
yeah,
oh
yeah,
god, here we are.
yeah. No, I mean that was the whole idea too, and I also did not think it'd get more intense when I composed the other one. I was like, this is the maximum I've got. Like this is my 11. I
I
need
am
somebody
pushed to the
else's.
limit here.
I need someone else's 11 to top this off.
And it's like because most of it is just you normally, right? Like
Yeah, so all the other instruments on everything except the orchestral stuff is me.
right.
So that's the only like guitar I didn't play on the record is that incredible solo, the best guitar on the record I did not play.
I mean, I wouldn't sell yourself too short, but how does it feel weird? Like, because I know starting with Pyre, it was like it was just you. It was just you and like your DAW and a guitar.
Yeah, and Ashley, has been singing with me for through all the games, but yeah,
Right.
as far as all the instrumental stuff goes, it's just been me for the most part, and yeah, I mean it was awesome to be able to work with some people on this game. I mean, it's something that I'd never really done before in the context of making video game music.
Right.
I've been in bands and written music with people for
Sure.
a long time, but I've never done it for this purpose. So it was really a delight to be able to do that. And then of course the stuff we got a chance to record at Abbey Road, a couple of tracks.
That must have been awesome.
It was dream come true, bucket
Yeah.
list stuff for sure. I mean, it was like Austin Wintory for those particular tracks. He did the arrangements for them and helped me with this project. I mean, we kind of tacked it on to another project we were doing there which was the Songs of Supergiant Orchestral album that we just released. So it was a sort of 10-year anniversary thing, and I was like, well, since we're going to Abbey Road, let me and we have a chamber orchestra at our disposal. Let me write a couple of pieces for that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you'd worked with Austin before. We actually,
yeah, I mean,
we did an interview with him a little while ago about Banner Saga. Did you? If you played any of those?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Austin's a friend of mine, and we hadn't really worked together before. I did a cover tune for his Tooth and Tail soundtrack for funsies, and that's the only time we'd ever really worked together. And then we started putting together the 10th anniversary project, and we were thinking about like what some cool stuff we could do for our 10th anniversary. And our operations director at the time, Michael, suggested that we try to do like an orchestral concert at PAX.
Sweet.
And that was great. I mean, I thought it was cool. I was just like, you're nuts. Was my initial reaction.
Who wants that?
Well, it's not like who wants that. It's like, how will we execute this? I don't understand.
Okay,
like, I just didn't have any idea.
Right.
I don't have the capability to execute this. I need a lot of help for something like this, So I initially was like, and then I thought about it more. And I was like, well, let me call Austin and see what he thinks. Let me
see what I can do.
Because I know he's a guy who would know how to do this. So I just came to him and I was like, well, how should I do this? Basically, was my question. Like, what kind of ensemble should I do? How much will it cost, do you think? Like, how many people can I have? Like, what's the rehearsal thing going to look like? What kind of stage do we need? I had no idea. And he's like, first of all, I'm on board. I'll conduct it. We're doing it.
That's so cool.
He was super in right away. So that was awesome. And we just kind of put together this kind of kooky ensemble, and I knew I had some specific goals. Like, I didn't want it to have just a regular old. I didn't want it to have a drum kit, and I didn't want there to be like I didn't want it to be a translation of the recording to just other instruments. I wanted it to be new arrangements.
Sure.
And so he's like, well, I got this arranger guy who's really talented, who can who I've worked with before, and we had this guy Brian LaGuardia do all the arrangements, and he just we worked with him on that stuff. Austin helped me sort of give notes on the arrangements, and that was a really fun process, and I'm super thrilled with how all that stuff turned out. And yeah, the live show was a ton of fun, and it went off so well that we thought, geez, we should record these arrangements. These are so cool. The response was so warm, and everybody seemed to enjoy them so much. And again, I was like, Austin, can you like price out some studios, figure out how we would do this? Like, I don't, and he comes back with a few studios. He's like, well, yeah, there's one in Seattle that's good we could do, and there's one in Nashville, and it's very nice. We could do that one, or and let me just put Abbey Road in here just in case, just for funsies. And at first I was like, oh man, that's nuts. And then as we talked about it more and thought about it, it's like, well, we should probably just do this at Abbey Road because
we can.
The sort of bucket listiness of it, and the sort of difference in price, like, wasn't as much as the difference maybe in potential quality, might have been. So we're just like, you know what, we're just gonna go for it. And do the thing in the most awesome way we possibly can, and
turn it up to 11. It's the
turn it up to 11.
It's the theme here today.
and it was just it was like one of the coolest experiences in my life, and so in this process we figured, okay, well, if we're going to go there to record an album, let me write a couple of pieces for Hades to justify this. And coincidentally, I want to have the sort of surface be a little bit more represented by this orchestral sound, which you won't have heard at all.
Nope, I have
before you get there.
I have not gotten that far.
Yes. So when you get there, you're going to hear some different sounds.
Okay.
So yeah, that was part of the excitement, was being able to do something I'd never done for a game, and I'd never worked with any other musicians, let alone a sort of chamber orchestra. And even recording the songs for the album, those were sort of like alternate versions of stuff I'd already written, but recording the new material at Abbey Road that I'd like written to be recorded by this ensemble was really felt real special to me. And Austin himself did those arrangements in particular for the orchestra and helped me get those lined up for everybody. And God, it was just such an incredible project, so much fun. And we spent it was just 2 days in the studio, and we just rocketed through everything, and it was a blast.
That's so cool. It's like, I mean, it's bucket list, and it's also like, it's funny because I had no idea you guys. I don't know how I would have known that you guys knew each other, but it's like, it's such a it's kind of that small world thing where it's like, oh yeah, all the people who meet at GDC one year now are fucking working at Abbey Roads. It's like, that's so cool, man.
Yeah, it's real cool. Yeah, Austin. Austin's. I've been in contact with him for a long time, and we've hit it off, just complaining about Star Wars to each other or whatever, So,
well, you guys didn't like the new trilogy?
I mean, we were complaining about it before the new trilogy came out.
Oh, okay.
But no, I didn't like the new trilogy.
there was one good moment.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just
fine. Yeah,
it's just I got a high bar.
Understandable. I mean, how do you beat Hayden Christensen, right?
It wasn't the bar I was talking about, but so everybody's bar is different, I suppose.
I actually, my mom was an event producer in the city in SF for a long time, and when I was growing up, she did all like the premieres for that type of stuff. So she did all the Pixar stuff, and she did episode 3. And
oh wow,
George Lucas was there, and I was like 15 or whatever. So I watched episode 3. And 15-year-old me meets George Lucas, and he's like, "Oh, cool! Like, what'd you think of the movie?" And I obviously just like totally freeze. I'm like, "It was okay." So I just like accidentally
it was okay.
Totally roasted George Lucas as a 15-year-old.
It was true. It was okay. That was kind. You were being very generous with your okay.
I was 15. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But when you were like. It must be so hard to imagine, like, when you were writing for Bastion, to be like, someday this music that I'm writing right now is going to be not only recorded at Abbey Roads, but recorded by an orchestra or like an orchestral arrangement for an album of all of my music.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that
would have
feel?
been,
Like, is it
that
just
would not have, I would not have believed that, I don't think, at the
right?
time.
Yeah. Does it just feel insane, or like does
It
it? Yeah.
does. Yeah, absolutely. It feels nuts. I mean, it's crazy to me. And I am, it's still surreal. And in particular, just because it was like such a, it was the one of the last things I did before the pandemic. So it feels doubly like a dream just because it was like, well, I haven't been outside my house in 9 months. So
This is pretty
maybe
much
it didn't
it.
even happen. Like, did it even happen? So it really was crazy. I mean, I did that, and then I got back from that, and then about a month later, I went and did the show again, the orchestral show at PAX East for
Right.
3,000 people, and that was super surreal and incredible. And then that was it. The next week we were locked down. It was like,
yeah, I watched the recording
locked
of the PAX East one.
Yeah.
When like that was February, March?
At very end of February, last weekend in February, I believe.
Yeah, so it was like right after my birthday, and I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I talked to that dude. I know that dude, kind of.
Yeah.
And then and then this, Hades comes out, and everyone's like clamoring about Hades, and I'm like, damn, like they really did it. Like they really, because Bastion, I played Bastion on my cell phone.
Yeah.
Like on my iPhone, like 5 or whatever. And now we're on what, like the 12, and it's like,
oh yeah,
and it's weird because other studios, like, again, not to dunk on Call of Duty or FIFA or whatever, but they come out every year.
Yep.
Whereas Supergiant put out 4 games.
Yeah.
Each one of them super successful, but like, I guess it just speaks to the whole passion project thing, where like you guys actually are making the games because you like these games. Like these are the games you wanted to make, as opposed to like, making a game because it has to get made, sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. We definitely wouldn't be making these games if we didn't absolutely really feel we needed to and wanted to really badly. It's a delight to make all this. I think you should get that.
Okay, the Gaia's treasure.
Yeah, because it's going to help you get some meta progress.
Okay.
Because if you're not going to go all the way this run, then you should just go for meta progress. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have time to go all the way this time. But I guess part of what I mean by the whole passion project thing too is that you you guys weren't necessarily like, you guys weren't coming from AAA studios, right?
Well, actually, Greg, Amir, Gavin, and Andrew all did come from AAA studios. So Greg, Amir, and Gavin had all worked at EA LA on the Command and Conquer series.
Sick.
And Andrew had worked on Call of Duty Modern Warfare at Infinity Ward. So he, we had 4 of the initial 7 people had come from AAA stuff.
Well, I guess I did most of my research on your stuff, not their stuff.
Yeah, I certainly had never done anything before, let alone a AAA game. So never done any video game stuff before. So except playing a lot of video games.
Right. So I guess my point was like it must be crazy going from not working on video games to working on a game that was nominated for Game of the Year.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is bananas. I mean, fully bananas. And we're doing our thing. We're making games that speak to us and that may or may not represent like whatever the sort of zeitgeist is, or whatever the
whatever the terminology is.
Yeah, they're not maybe they're not the sort of most mainstream type of game necessarily even, but they're important to us and they're games that we really enjoy making and are feel like something that we can put our spin on and make in an interesting way. It's a good thing about those gems.
I know, yeah.
Because now you can buy a thing when you go back that makes your runs a little easier.
Make me suck a little less.
No, it's tough. You got that when you only got 1 dash, no Death Defiance. It's
yet.
Rough. You'll get it.
But I feel like you guys partially encapsulate the whole indie zeitgeist, as it were, because roguelites, whichever it is, not this, but like in general, have become such a big thing in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, with like, Binding of Isaac, Dead Cells, I am blanking now, like Minute, all those games where it's like people have now really
Slay the Spire, yeah.
Slay the Spire, right?
Yep.
The whole isometric Metroidvania-ish thing has also like blown up, like book dungeons, or paper dungeons, whatever that one's called.
Dicey Dungeons?
No, not Dicey Dungeons, but Dicey Dungeons is great.
Yep.
There was another one that was like it's like Papercraft Dungeon. I'll look it up after. Yeah.
Okay.
But either way, it seems like, without necessarily wanting to, or like having the thought going into being like, okay, we're gonna make the best isometric Metroidvania. Which there's another name for it now, but I still think Metroidvania is better. Like, roguelite, whatever. We're gonna make a game that we like that somehow still encapsulates all that and turns it up to 11.
I mean, yeah, I think we all really enjoy a lot of the games in. We were playing a bunch of roguelikes at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Where we were trying to figure out what to make after Pyre, and one of the things we thought there was some stuff to that we could bring to the table that hadn't been done before necessarily. We wanted to have a pervasive story, and we wanted to have a game that sort of remembered all of your deaths, and where you remembered all of your deaths, and you know what I mean. It's something that incorporated the mechanics deeply into the narrative,
right?
And that's sort of one of the touches that we felt maybe like we could bring to the table, and we were anxious to give that a shot, or excited to give that a shot, I should say.
It's interesting because like even with Bastion, the whole narration, when you die, it's like the narration follows you off the cliff. It's like people, I don't know that was necessarily like supposed to be innovative at the time. You guys were probably just like, oh, this is fun, but
yeah.
Then not that that's what you guys sound like, but hey, what do I know? But the so many people have adapted that style afterwards because it's like without necessarily meaning to, you guys set these precedents of stuff that isn't necessarily like game changing, but it's so cool that people are like, oh man, that little thing is so like perfect for X, Y, or Z.
I mean, I think we've all really enjoyed games in the past where it's clear that the game is paying attention to you.
Right.
Like, the Psycho Mantis fight in Metal Gear Solid, yes, or whatever, right? That blew my mind as a kid, and blew Greg's mind, and blew everybody's mind, and we were all kind of blown. Like, we started reading our memory card to us. We're like, "What the hell?"
You like Castlevania, don't you?
Yeah, you like Suikoden or whatever,
How did you know?
Yeah, it like blew my mind. And so, the idea of the game paying attention to you, is really something that we thought was exciting, and there was some potential there, like the game responding to you more specifically, and just kind of paying attention to what you do, and how many times you die, and how many times you fell, and how many enemies you kill, and whatever, like all the little stuff that it's very easy to track.
It's also like Meat Boy, even, how at the end of a level, it's like it just replays all your deaths, and then there's the one lone Meat Boy who survives.
Yeah. I know it's just something that responds to you, and allows you to. The game expresses to you that it is paying attention to you, and it sees you, and is responding to exactly what you did in your unique playthrough that you just had. So
and
I think
it's part of that meta game too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's something that we've been interested in exploring, I think, on each of our games, just trying to make sure that the player knows we're paying attention to them.
And even with the little like bits of humor, like when I was talking to the Shade earlier, and he's like, ah, yes, a fountain in Hades would be great. Like,
Yeah,
it's like you guys are very self-aware, I guess, in these
yeah,
games.
yeah. And this game in particular, I think too, there's the most sort of cheeky humor that in any of the games. It's like if only I had some sort of healing flask right about now. Like
Right?
Zach will
Yeah.
say
It's like I
stuff like,
can't heal, but I can fight.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly. It's kind of both a tutorial and it's like trying to answer a question that the player has in their brain at
right.
that moment. It's like, well, can I heal? And then Zach's like, I can't heal, but I
Nope.
can fight. We
No,
know
no,
that the
no.
player is thinking that right there. So we
It,
want to find a way to express it in world.
which is great because another thing that I talked to the Paradise Killer dudes about was how like a lot of games anymore that if you have to do a tutorial mission where you explain every single mechanic, you're kind of doing it wrong. Like that's fine in certain settings. Like I replayed the original Splinter Cell recently.
Mhm.
Oh my god, it did not age well.
Uh,
The whole first mission is just a tutorial mission where it's like, okay, and now if you
yeah,
hit this button, it does this.
yeah,
Whereas like with this, it's like you drop Zagreus in and it's like, all right, hit stuff, mash button, do thing.
yeah. I mean, I think we try to incorporate as much of that stuff into the just playing of the game as we possibly can. I think part of the thing that's exciting about um, playing a new game is just discovering everything there is to discover about it,
Right.
and allowing players to have that sense of discovery, like it's something that they did on their own rather than
You had
was
to hold their
prescribed.
hand.
We definitely suggest like, hey, you can do this, but we try not to. We try to stay out of the way.
Right.
If when possible.
Right. Of course. It's part of the thing. It's that whole showing or tell by showing thing is so. It's been so pervasive in a lot of your guys' games. Where in Transistor, the sword. I forget the sword's name. The sword is like
the Transistor. Yeah.
the trans. Okay, yeah, that's. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you got
but
it.
it's like your boyfriend or. It's been
Yeah,
a while.
there's no unnamed person in the Transistor.
Yeah. But he, instead of it being like, oh, like the game's like, okay, here's the Transistor. Like, by the way, like this is a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you were saying, Zagreus can be like, oh, I wish I could heal. Sucks, I can't. But it's definitely become a lot more common anymore. I feel like, especially like I was watching a video about the new Doom about Doom Eternal, where they're talking about how you beat Doom 2016, you feel like a badass, you start Doom Eternal. They have to make you feel like a badass within the first 5 minutes of that game, where it's like, okay, so this thing happens, a zombie shows up, and immediately you just like get your shotgun and blow him, and you get this upgrade, and you just like destroy dude immediately. And it's like within the first like half level of that game, they make you feel like the Doomslayer.
Yeah, cool.
Which is so cool. Whereas with something like this, it feels like I don't know. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do it, but I think that's the point, right? Is like I have to get out, but there's so many different ways of getting out.
Yeah.
What have you been playing recently? Have you been playing anything like?
Yeah. I played Miles Morales. Really enjoyed that. I played.
Wait, do you have a PS5?
I do.
I
do.
I'm so jealous.
My friend, I didn't even get it myself. My friend, who's like a Robin Hood of scalpers, meaning like he bought as many PS5s as he could so he could sell them to people at regular price, so other people couldn't scalp them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. He's a really good guy.
We need more people like that.
Yeah, and anyway, he's like, "Hey, I got an extra. Do you want a PS5?" He got me one. And so yeah, I've been playing that. I played through most of the Pathless, which is really cool.
I played
through the Pathless is Austin Wintory's. He did the score. It's from Giant Squid. It's a It's the people who did Abzu, Matt Nava and Journey
Oh
Crew.
yeah.
Journey Crew.
I saw that.
Yeah, beautiful game.
I think he told us
And
about that, actually.
I've been playing Ori and the Will o' the Wisps, checking that out.
Yes.
Been playing. I checked out that new Battletoads game, which is actually like it didn't review very well, but I've been really enjoying it.
I mean, if you like the original Battletoads,
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
yeah. One of
And
my
then
one of my students actually worked on that.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
it's
of
actually
our
like
students. Yeah,
really fun. I was feeling it for it kind of hit me right in the right Battletoads spot for some reason, and
big nostalgia, big angry.
yeah, it was good, and the writing is irreverent in the right way and stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Enjoying it. And then I ended up getting Game Pass,
Yes,
just to like check out bunch of games because
it's wild how much stuff is on there.
A lot of stuff, yeah, and I so like Ori, that's where I'm playing Ori and
right, same.
and there's some Battletoads and I checked out Haven for a minute. Yeah, anyway, I've been checking out a bunch of stuff. Trying to just like at least play a little bit of a lot of things.
Right.
But I did finish Miles Morales because I love those Spider-Man games so much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Spider-Man nerd in general. Like, I collected the comics growing up, and well, I mean, growing up all the way through college. But I once I get a PS5, I could get it on the PS4, but like,
just wait.
Yeah,
just wait. It looks really good on the PS5, and there's no load times or anything.
Right, which is part of the sell.
The fast travel is truly fast. It's extremely fast. Yeah.
Adorable. What's it called? Subway cutscenes.
Yeah. No adorable subway cutscene. It's just immediately getting out of the subway somewhere else. It's very satisfying.
Pretty great.
I mean, I love those cutscenes, but it was like making the most of a load. Load screen.
Right. Of course. Yeah, Ori is definitely. I played the first one, so it's definitely on my list. Games Pass is like, especially since it comes with Discord now, with Discord Nitro. It's like,
interesting.
I have to.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I played a minute ago was I saw my friend playing Star Wars Squadrons, and I was like, he was playing with a mouse and keyboard, and I was like, well, that seems like a whack way to play this game, but it makes me want to play it. So I ordered a flight stick, like in a thruster, and I played through the campaign with like a thruster and a flight stick, and it was awesome. Like, it was really fun. And then I'm like, well, now I have to, because I own a flight stick, I guess I have to play some flight simulator games.
Right.
Like, I'm not really a flight sim guy, but I was like, well, I guess I got to do this. So I got Ace Combat 7 and Microsoft Flight Simulator. I haven't checked those out yet, but
yeah, I've never. I used to play the flight sim games as a kid, but it was mostly just to like crash my plane.
Yeah. I loved I play a little flight sim stuff. Like, my friend had X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, whatever. Like those games for the PC, and I would go over to his house and play him with his little flight stick thing that he had, and but the thing that I really that I played a bunch was Pilot Wings for the NES, Super NES.
Yeah.
I played the crap out of Pilot Wings. I love that game, and so I don't think of myself as a flight simulator dude, but maybe I am because I love Pilot Wings.
I don't know that Pilot Wings is necessarily a flight sim.
It's sort of a flight. It's like a super. I mean, it's as much of a flight sim as you could get on Super Nintendo.
Right.
It's like a
Pilot Wing 64 was pretty great. If you're into.
Yeah, I didn't play that one as much. Actually, I didn't own a 64. I like skipped a couple generations.
Yeah, went from SNES to Switch.
I went from SNES to Wii, I think. Fair enough. Yeah, SNES to Wii, and then I've done been there. Yeah, I've never. I was like, I sort of sided with PlayStation on the Switch to, it's like the switch to that generation, the 64 generation.
Yeah, definitely. And then like the whole, Bastion came out. When did Bastion come out? 2007?
2011.
Wow, I was way off.
The studio was formed in 2009, but yeah, Bastion came out in 2011.
Maybe that's what it was. I guess I just have big nostalgia for my iPhone. But
Yeah.
the so 2011. I mean, the Wii was still a thing, so it
Yeah.
makes sense that you would skip to Wii then. I guess just be like, let's see what else is going on here.
Yeah, I mean, we came out in what, 2007 probably.
I think so.
Yeah, so I had like a Wii and a 360 for that generation, and then eventually, like right at the end of the generation, got a PS3, and then I've sort of had. I guess I've had both. I've had all the stuff since because I've been working in
I was gonna
games
say
seriously.
you
So it's
kind
like,
of you
well,
kind
I
of
just
have
have
to,
all of them now.
right?
Yeah, I have all the things. Yeah,
You get the dev kits.
I don't get the dev kits. I just get the regular consoles because I just want to check out all the stuff.
That's cool too.
Yeah, yeah. I have yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, I got I ended up getting the Xbox One basically just to continue to play Rock Band, like because I'd bought like 1,500 Rock Band songs on the 360, and I wanted to keep, and then you could just import them all, you know.
So you're the one holdout of Rock Band.
holding out strong,
Someone's
die
got to do it.
hard.
Someone's got to keep harmonics.
Harmonics.
Are they still
I
around?
want to keep those lights on real bad. I want them. I've gotten several of my songs in different harmonics games, like 3, maybe 4 different harmonics games at this point.
Really?
But they haven't asked me to put a song in Rock Band yet. I'm just waiting. I think now is the time because Hades has a lot of rockin' music in it.
Yeah. And
just saying, if they came a knocking, if there's any harmonics people watching this,
any of the harmonics people out there, we'll vouch for you, Darren. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get that 21 song in there and really
21.8. That would be fun.
Really,
that would be fun.
really mess with people.
Yeah, that'd be fun. The God of the Dead would be a fun one, like 9-minute, or with the guitar solos and even if we want to do that. Yeah.
Really, just wrecking people's day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have been collecting consoles recently, so I got a lot of retro stuff, and I've been modding them. So I just got all the old Guitar Hero and Rock Band stuff. So I'm gonna try and make them into MIDI gear. See if I can mess with that.
Oh yeah.
Be pretty
you
fun.
can already plug in the Jaguar Pro controller, Guitar Pro controller they released with Rock Band 3. It's like a guitar with like 1 billion buttons on it. It's like 144 buttons or something because it's got like 6 buttons per fret. You know what I mean? Like to represent each string thing.
Right.
And then it has these 6 kind of strings that are just like go from here to here.
Yeah.
And it's a MIDI controller. You can just plug it in. It's got a MIDI output. You can just plug it into your computer, and like use it as a guitar MIDI controller. It's super cool.
That's wild.
And same with the keytar from Rock Band 3. You can just plug that in and use it as a MIDI controller.
As a MIDI keytar?
You own a keytar, yeah. You own a MIDI keytar.
That's probably way cheaper than buying one of those Roland ones.
It is. The Roland ones are very expensive. They did come out with like a cheap keytar. It's like a Yamaha. I forget. I got one like a long time. Like I have a friend who doesn't play any instruments, but another friend and I have always said, like, if we buy you a keytar, you have to learn to play it and be in our band. So now they finally this is back when keytars cost like $2,000. That was like the entry level keytar. Now it's like $150 keytar or something, or like a $200 keytar, and we're just like, and we both have jobs and stuff, so we're like, oh, we're getting him this keytar. It just came out. We're like, what is happening? And he's gonna have to do it.
Does he remember that he promised this?
Oh yeah, we reminded him a lot over the years. So
it's well within reach.
He's got it. He's practiced a little bit. We're gonna have to bring the hammer down and get him to really put in those hours, put in those 10,000 hours to
mastery.
The keytar. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. I think that's time for us today. I really appreciate you hanging out with us again, Darren, as always.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for Hades. Thank the rest of the team as well for us. Congrats on Best Indie and Best Action.
Thank you so much.
Get them next year with Game of the Year, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how that works, but
yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to plug or let our students or audience know?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for the incredible support over the years, and the response to Hades has been amazing. And I have a for funsies kind of side project with my band Control Group. I'm working on an album right now, and a few years back we recorded a little record with Steve Albini, and
Oh, hell yeah.
which was amazing, and all the proceeds from all that stuff go to charity. So if you want to check that stuff out, it's called Control Group.
Wait, are you guys on social media?
Yeah, it's on Twitter it's like at CTRL Group Music or something.
Cool.
And then I don't know. We're on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right. I'll post. I'll do some research and post some links after this.
Yeah. You'll see my picture there. So
Yeah.
it's that one. It's not some other. There's another one, but that's the Control Group, and that's not us.
They're not as cool.
I don't know. I can't speak to whether or not they're as cool. It's just not us.
Fair.
It's just not me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you around.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.